Hello Dub Nation, it's always a thrill to connect with you, especially as we're about to reveal the latest news that could shape the fate of our beloved Golden State Warriors. But before we dive into this whirlwind of information, let me make a friendly request. Show us some love by clicking the like button to strengthen our bond, and hey, if you are not subscribed yet, join our channel for a thrilling and emotional journey. Don't forget to turn on notifications to stay ahead of the game.
Steph Curry's bizarre halftime ritual that drove a six-time All-Star crazy. Everyone's so worried about. Steph Curry, four-time NBA champion with the Golden State Warriors, is without question one of the most electrifying, and at times infuriating players the league has ever seen. He's the greatest shooter in NBA history, a master of movement, and a nightmare for defenders even when they do everything right. But as dominant as he is on the court, it was something he did off the court that left one six-time All-Star shaking his head. The halftime habit that left teammates baffled. According to former Warriors teammate Damian Lee, Curry had an unusual halftime routine that fueled his second-half explosions. He would read tweets about himself during the break. Speaking on the Straight to Cam podcast, Lee revealed he'd literally type his own name into Twitter at halftime. Just scrolling, seeing people say stuff like, "Steph Curry washed," or whatever. He'd look for maybe 2 minutes, close his phone, and then come out in the second half like a man possessed. It sounds crazy, but it worked. Curry is one of the most feared third-quarter players in NBA history. The Warriors consistently came out of the locker room on fire, and Curry's mental trick might be part of the reason why. Like Michael Jordan before him, he found ways to create motivation, even from haters. If MJ had played during the Twitter era, he might have done the exact same thing. This mindset, using criticism as fuel, sets legends apart. But not everyone is on board with this new era of social media-driven self-motivation. DeMar DeRozan isn't impressed. That was never a thought for us. Six-time All-Star DeMar DeRozan has seen this trend rise among younger players, and he's not a fan. To him, it signals a deeper issue, a creeping insecurity fed by the need for constant validation online. On 7 p.m. in Brooklyn with Carmelo Anthony, DeRozan pulled no punches. Dudes always on their phones, worried about what people are saying. I saw a guy search his name on Twitter at halftime. That was never a thing when we played. There was no social media back then. No distractions. Now it's like everyone's so caught up in the wrong stuff, how they look, what they're wearing, skincare before the game. It's like, what happened to just hooping? Just going out there to compete, to win, to leave everything on the floor. DeRozan, now a veteran presence with the Sacramento Kings, isn't trying to throw shade, he's sending a warning. In his eyes, too many young stars are focusing on the image, not the game. And while Curry may have the mental strength to use social media as fuel without letting it derail him, others might not be so lucky. The takeaway: are players too focused on the wrong game? There's a bigger question lurking behind these stories. Are today's players too distracted? Is the pressure to build a brand and manage a persona taking away from the passion for the game itself? Curry's ritual might seem odd, but for him, it worked. He's an outlier, a mental fortress in a social media storm. But DeRozan's point stands. If up-and-coming players are spending halftime searching their names instead of locking in, that might say more about the culture of the league than any single player. One thing's clear: while Steph Curry might scroll Twitter to light his fire, others would do better listening to a veteran like DeRozan, before the noise drowns out the game. Curry's competitive edge, or social media obsession. To be fair, Steph Curry's habit wasn't about vanity. It wasn't about feeding his ego or checking how many likes he got. It was surgical. He was looking for doubt, for disrespect, for that one tweet that said he's done, or he's overrated. Then he'd take that negativity and turn it into fuel. But that kind of mental toughness is rare. And that's what makes Curry an exception, not the rule. The concern, as DeRozan pointed out, is that younger players are mimicking the behavior without having the mental framework to handle it. They're not searching for motivation. They're searching for approval. And when the feedback isn't what they want, it shakes them. It distracts them. It diminishes their edge. DeRozan's message didn't go unnoticed. NBA veterans react. Is today's game losing its soul? After DeRozan's comments aired, several NBA veterans and analysts echoed similar concerns. Former players like Richard Jefferson and Matt Barnes chimed in on social media, agreeing that the modern NBA is too focused on optics. These young guys care more about the tunnel walk than the walk-off win, Barnes posted. Meanwhile, Jefferson said on ESPN's NBA Today, "It's not about hating on the younger generation, it's about reminding them what this game is really about. The grind. The hunger. The hoop." Even fans joined the debate online, sparking heated conversations about whether the NBA's culture is evolving or eroding. Some praised Curry's use of social media as genius-level mental jiu-jitsu. Others criticized the overall shift in focus, from performance to persona. A tale of two generations. At its core, this is a generational divide. Curry, despite being a modern-day icon, still embodies an old-school mindset. He finds a way to weaponize distractions instead of being ruled by them. On the other hand, DeRozan, a player who came up in the pre-Instagram era, feels like the soul of the game is slipping away. "You used to show up to prove something," DeRozan said. "Now guys show up to be seen." That line struck a nerve. Not just because it came from a respected vet, but because it echoes what a lot of people, coaches, fans, even front office execs, have been quietly thinking. What happens when the motivation shifts from competition to validation? What this means for the next generation of stars. As the NBA continues to welcome new talent, young stars like Anthony Edwards, Paolo Banchero, and Scoot Henderson, the influence of social media will only grow. And the question becomes, who will rise above it like Curry? And who will be consumed by it? Coaches across the league are already re-evaluating how they mentor young players. Several teams have even brought in mental performance coaches to help players build resilience in the face of online criticism. The Warriors, in fact, were one of the first organizations to invest heavily in player wellness and mindset training, perhaps part of why Curry thrives in that environment. DeRozan's words might just be the wake-up call this generation needs. The bottom line, it's still about the game. Curry might scroll Twitter at halftime. But then he drops 25 in the third quarter and walks away with a win. He's earned the right to do things his way. But not every player is Steph Curry. And that's the lesson here. It's not about the phone, or the tweets, or the drip you wear walking into the arena. It's about what you do when the lights are on, when the ball is tipped and the scoreboard is live. At the end of the day, the players who remember why they started playing, and block out the noise, will be the ones who rise to the top. NBA fans react to Jimmy Butler's slip-up, and worry it might rub Warriors teammates the wrong way. Jimmy Butler seems genuinely excited about joining the Golden State Warriors for the upcoming NBA season. But in his eagerness, he may have made a misstep that could ruffle a few feathers in his new locker room. On paper, the Warriors look like they should be contenders. A core of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green, all battle-tested veterans with championship DNA, could be seen as one of the most dynamic trios in the league. Under Steve Kerr's leadership, Golden State still carries that golden pedigree. But let's face it, this isn't 2017. Curry, Butler, and Green are all in their mid-30s now. The clock is ticking. Injuries loom large. And the Warriors, truth be told, haven't done much this offseason to surround their stars with the depth they'll need for a deep playoff run. And Butler? He might have just said the quiet part out loud. Butler embraces the Robin role, but forgets the rest of the cast. Shortly after the trade that brought him to the Bay Area, Butler took to Instagram, leaning into his new role alongside Curry. "I'm on my way to greatness, man," he posted. "Robin's gonna be that guy this year. Batman will handle his business. And Draymond? He's the Batmobile. He gets us where we need to go. He does it all." It was a clever, heartfelt metaphor. But then came the fumble. "Who else do we have?" Butler asked mid-video. "I don't know. But Golden State." That one line set off a storm online. NBA fans didn't hold back. Fans immediately jumped into the comments, and onto social media, with mixed reactions. Some laughed. Others cringed. "Bro doesn't even know who's on the roster," one fan joked. Asking who else did we sign? 30 days before training camp is wild, another wrote. He named 3 dudes and Buddy Hield. "Dubs are cooked," said a third. While Butler's comment may have seemed careless, some fans actually sympathized with him. "Maybe he didn't name anyone else because he knows they might all be trade bait," one supporter suggested. "Not even I can name another impactful player on this roster." "Can't blame Jimmy," another added. The sentiment was clear. If Butler doesn't know who his teammates are, it's not just on him. It's a reflection of the Warriors' underwhelming off-season. The Warriors' quiet off-season isn't helping. Let's call it like it is. The Warriors haven't exactly reloaded. This summer, they lost Kevin Looney in free agency, and there's a strong chance both Gary Payton II and Pat Spencer are out the door as well. Rumors have swirled around potential signings like Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton, but nothing has materialized. And relying on a 39-year-old Horford, who's openly thinking about retirement, or Melton, who's recovering from an ACL tear, doesn't exactly scream championship favorite. It's no wonder Butler's mind went blank when trying to name the rest of the squad. Sure, Brandon Podziemski, Buddy Hield, and Jonathan Kuminga are expected to return, but none of them have proven to be consistent game changers. At this point, they're more question marks than solutions. Can Batman, Robin, and the Batmobile really carry this team? Butler may have unknowingly said what many have been thinking. If the Warriors are going to make a serious playoff push, let alone chase another title, it's going to fall almost entirely on the shoulders of their aging Big Three. Curry, Batman, will have to play at an MVP level. Butler, Robin, must be the relentless two-way force he's known to be. And Draymond, the Batmobile, will need to keep everything running, on both ends of the floor. There's still hope in Golden State. But it's a hope rooted more in legacy than in roster depth. Butler's moment of honesty, intentional or not, might have struck a nerve. It may even motivate the rest of the roster to prove him wrong. But unless someone outside the Big Three steps up in a big way, this team's title window might be closer to closing than anyone in the Bay Area wants to admit. Inside the locker room, will Butler's comments create tension? While Jimmy Butler's remarks may have been unintentional, the impact inside the Warriors' locker room could be harder to ignore. NBA players, especially role players, are hyper-aware of how they're perceived by stars. When a new teammate publicly forgets you're even on the roster, it stings. Multiple league insiders have suggested that some Warriors players took Butler's comments personally. According to a report from Bay Area Hoops Wire, at least one young player was caught off guard by Butler's dismissal and saw it as a lack of respect. "You want a leader to come in and lift guys up," one team source said. "Not act like you don't exist." While it's unlikely that a public fallout will occur, especially this early, it's clear that chemistry will be something to monitor closely during training camp. Steve Kerr will have his hands full. As the respected architect behind 4 championships, Steve Kerr has always emphasized team culture, cohesion, and mutual respect. That culture was one of the reasons Kevin Durant fit in for a time, and why aging stars like Andre Iguodala remained impactful well past their physical peaks. Now Kerr faces a new challenge, integrating a strong-willed vocal personality like Butler into a locker room that already has outspoken veterans in Curry and Draymond. Butler's passion and leadership are undeniable, but so are his past clashes. His time in Minnesota and Philadelphia both ended with reports of tension, largely around his direct, no-nonsense style. If Kerr can channel that energy in the right direction, Butler could become the emotional spark the Warriors have lacked since the decline of their bench depth. Warriors fans are divided. Fan reactions have been split down the middle. Some have embraced Butler's fiery mentality and brutal honesty. They see him as the missing piece, a no-excuses competitor who can push the Warriors back into title contention. Others, however, are more skeptical. The idea of Butler brushing off teammates before even playing a game in blue and gold rubbed many the wrong way. "We love the energy, but come on man, learn your teammates' names first," one fan wrote on Reddit. "If Jimmy doesn't learn to trust the guys around him, we're done before we even start," another added. Meanwhile, in the front office can't ignore the spotlight that Butler's comment has shown on their quiet off-season. The lack of significant signings has gone from a background concern to a glaring issue overnight. Some reports suggest that Mike Dunlevy Jr., the Warriors' general manager, is now under pressure to make a late splash before the season begins, possibly by pulling off a trade to deepen the bench. Golden State has been linked to players like Kelly Olynyk, Tyus Jones, and Bojan Bogdanovic, but salary cap complications and limited assets make major moves difficult. Still, if the Warriors want to silence doubts and keep their core motivated, they may need to act soon. The bottom line, time is running out. Jimmy Butler didn't mean to cause drama, at least, not intentionally. But in doing what he's always done, speaking his mind, he's exposed a vulnerability in the Warriors' championship armor. There's no denying that the core of Curry, Butler, and Draymond is elite. But without real support behind them, and with internal chemistry now under the microscope, this Warriors team is walking a tightrope. Their window isn't shut just yet. But if Golden State wants one last deep playoff run, They'll need more than just Batman, Robin, and a Batmobile. They'll need a full cast of heroes ready to step into the spotlight. What crazy thing Steph Curry did to a Warriors rookie before he was even on the team. Golden State Warriors superstar Stephen Curry is just built different, and that becomes even more obvious when you see what he does behind the scenes. NBA fans are used to watching Steph hit impossible shots under pressure, night after night. But that elite shot making? It wasn't magic. It's the result of countless hours of work, far from the cameras, long before the lights come on. And if you think what he does in games is wild, just imagine what happens in practice. Just ask Moses Moody, the Warriors' 14th overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft, who got a full dose of Steph's insanity before he was even officially on the roster. Moses Moody thought he had a moment, until Curry took over. Coming out of college, Moody was a lottery pick, confident and eager to prove himself. So when he showed up at a Warriors facility for a workout, he didn't expect Stephen Curry, a two-time MVP and future Hall of Famer, to be there, much less join the workout. The first time I ever met him, he showed up at my workout, before I even made the team, Moody said on the Old Man and the Three podcast. I just remember thinking, this is wild. I'm really here. This is the NBA now. At first, things were going great for the rookie. Curry let him get comfortable. Moody was hitting shots. Feeling good. Confidence rising. It was one of those days where Steph does what he does in games, just takes over and goes crazy, Moody added. At first, I was killing it. I'm a rookie, fresh in the league, so I was feeling myself. Little did he know, that moment of confidence was about to turn into a full-blown welcome to the NBA moment, courtesy of the baby-faced assassin. Everyone knew what was coming, except Moody. Moody recalled that as he was catching fire, he noticed something strange. No one else was impressed. The room was quiet, almost too quiet. Like they knew a storm was coming. Looking back, I could just feel the energy in the gym. Everyone was thinking the same thing. This kid has no idea what's about to happen, he said. And then, Steph flipped the switch. He just went off. Completely took over. Did everything. Pull-up threes, full-court sprints, one-legged runners. And I'm just standing there thinking, yeah, okay. That's why he's Steph Curry. Moody couldn't help but laugh about it now, but it was his first real lesson in what greatness really looks like. From humble beginnings to trusted teammate. To his credit, Moses Moody didn't fold. That early moment of humbling turned into motivation. Over the last few seasons, the 23-year-old has carved out a solid role with the team, earning the trust of his coaches, and even Steph himself. In fact, the Warriors are reportedly hesitant to include Moody in any off-season trades involving Jonathan Kuminga, despite multiple teams showing interest. It's a clear sign that Golden State sees something special in the young guard, something worth holding on to. The Curry effect, setting the tone without saying a word. Stories like this speak volumes about who Steph Curry is, not just as a player, but as a leader. He didn't talk trash. He didn't flex. He let his game do the talking. He showed Moody exactly what the NBA demands, and more importantly, what greatness looks like up close. And that's the true power of Curry. He doesn't just hit deep threes or win MVPs. He raises the standard for everyone around him, sometimes without even meaning to. If Moses Moody didn't know what he was walking into that day, he does now. And so does the rest of the league. Because when Steph Curry walks into a gym, even your pre-draft workout, you better believe it's about to get real. Jonathan Kuminga's potential extension could spell trouble for Draymond Green, warns Warriors insider. Jonathan Kuminga may still open the upcoming NBA season wearing a Golden State Warriors jersey, despite ongoing trade rumors that have followed him throughout the summer. The 21-year-old forward remains under contract after reportedly turning down a 2-year, $45 million extension. While teams like Sacramento and Phoenix have expressed interest, the Warriors have been unimpressed with the offers that came their way, and for good reason. Kuminga's potential is still something the franchise values deeply. But according to Warriors insider Dalton Johnson, if Kuminga does stay, his increased role could lead to some uncomfortable changes, particularly for Draymond Green. Steve Kerr's new starting lineup could leave Draymond on the outside looking in. Head coach Steve Kerr appears determined to give Kuminga every chance to shine, and that includes a prominent place in the starting lineup. According to Johnson, Kerr's early season plan is to roll out a core lineup featuring Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, and Draymond Green. But while the idea sounds exciting on paper, it creates some serious rotational and positional headaches. Kerr told us at the end of last season that Kuminga was coming back, and that he'd open the year trying out that four-man group: Steph, JK, Jimmy, and Draymond, Johnson revealed. But it's going to take some experimenting early on to see how that actually works. Here's the problem: Kuminga and Butler are both best utilized at the forward spots. Neither fits naturally at the wing, and if the Warriors go out and sign Al Horford to man the center position, it could push Green out of his usual small ball center role. It just didn't work last time they tried it, Johnson added. And if you bring in someone like Horford, that might help. But Jimmy's not a power forward. JK's not a power forward. So what do you do? Put Draymond on the bench and bring him in like you did with Andre Iguodala. Could Draymond be headed for a sixth-man role? That's the uncomfortable possibility now being floated. If the Warriors commit to starting Kuminga and Butler, and land a veteran big like Horford, then Draymond Green could be relegated to the bench. It would be a seismic shift in team dynamics. Green has been a heartbeat of the Warriors dynasty, a defensive anchor and emotional leader. But if the starting wing spots go to players like Buddy Hield or Brandon Podziemski, and the front court gets crowded, Green could find himself in a reserve role for the first time since early in his career. And for a proud veteran like Draymond, that's not an easy adjustment. Kerr's gamble: keep Kuminga happy, risk losing Green's role. Kerr's apparent willingness to give Kuminga a larger role seems to be part of a broader effort to keep the young forward engaged, and in Golden State. It's no secret Kuminga has shown signs of frustration with his role over the past season. Giving him starter minutes may smooth things over in the short term, but there's risk baked into this strategy. If Kuminga still declines to sign an extension and uses the increased playing time to raise his trade value, the Warriors could find themselves in a lose-lose situation, especially if another team swoops in next summer with an offer they can't or won't match. From a roster construction standpoint, this might be the only path forward, especially if you're trying to keep JK happy, Johnson explained. But it's a gamble. A high-risk, high-reward bet for the Warriors. The Warriors are walking a delicate line. On one hand, they want to retain young talent and transition smoothly into their next era. On the other, they're still trying to compete for titles now, with veterans like Curry, Green, and now Butler in the fold. But elevating Kuminga could have long-term consequences, both in terms of locker room harmony and financial flexibility. If his market value explodes and he still wants out, the Warriors could lose him for nothing or be forced into a rushed trade. Meanwhile, Green's pride and presence loom large. Benching him risks disrupting the chemistry that's defined Golden State's identity for nearly a decade. It's a bold move. Maybe even a necessary one. But one thing's clear: the Warriors can't afford many missteps in what could be the final chapter of the Curry-era dynasty. A defining year for Kuminga, and for Golden State's future. This upcoming season might be the most pivotal of Jonathan Kuminga's young career, and possibly for the entire Warriors franchise. If Kuminga proves he can thrive in a consistent starting role, it could validate Golden State's patience and development plan. But if things go sideways, whether due to on-court fit, locker room tensions, or failed contract negotiations, it could mark the beginning of the end of the Warriors' championship window. The front office knows what's at stake. Sources close to the team have hinted that Mike Dunlevy Jr. and the executive staff are already working through contingency plans. That includes possible sign-and-trade options next summer and exploring veteran replacements should Kuminga ultimately walk. The Warriors don't want to lose him for nothing, one team insider shared. But they're also not going to break the foundation of their identity just to keep a player who may already be halfway out the door. Locker room dynamics. How will Draymond respond? Perhaps the most unpredictable variable in this experiment is Draymond Green himself. Known for his intense personality and pride in his role as the defensive quarterback of the team, Green has never been one to quietly accept a lesser role. The parallels to Andre Iguodala's transition to the bench are obvious, but Iguodala was further along in his career, and never the emotional engine that Green is. If Draymond starts the season coming off the bench, it could lead to tension behind closed doors. And with Jimmy Butler also known for his fiery leadership style, the potential for personality clashes is real. You're trying to fit 3 alpha competitors into a shrinking window of success, said one Western Conference scout. If the fit isn't seamless, it could get volatile fast. That said, if any coach is equipped to manage such a dynamic, it's Steve Kerr, who has guided Golden State through egos, injuries, and dynastic pressure for nearly a decade. What this means for the Warriors' title hopes. Golden State is taking a bold approach, blending aging legends, a superstar newcomer, and an unproven rising star into a formula they hope can win now and secure the future. But it's a high-wire act with no net. If Kuminga shines, they'll face difficult financial decisions next summer. If he struggles, they risk stalling his development and damaging trade value. If Green resents his role, it could impact team chemistry and leadership. If Butler doesn't fit seamlessly, the gamble to bring him in could backfire. And looming over it all, Stephen Curry, still playing at an elite level, but now in the twilight of his prime. The Warriors don't want to waste one of his final championship-caliber years on an identity crisis. Around the league, other teams are watching closely. The ripple effects of this situation extend far beyond the Bay Area. Rival teams, especially those interested in Kuminga, are monitoring the situation closely. If Golden State shows any hesitation about committing to him long-term, suitors like the Sacramento Kings, Orlando Magic, or even the Miami Heat could pounce with aggressive trade offers. Additionally, agents and players around the league are taking note of how Golden State handles the balance between loyalty to veterans and trust in young talent. It's a test case for how aging dynasties can transition, gracefully or otherwise. Final thought: the tightrope between legacy and the future. The Warriors have spent the last decade building one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. But staying at the top requires evolution, and evolution often comes with discomfort. By trying to elevate Kuminga while still honoring Draymond Green's legacy, Golden State is threading a needle few franchises have ever managed successfully. If they get it right, they could extend their window for years. If they don't, this could be the year the dynasty begins to unravel.